Hi, this is Lauren from LSP Actions, and I'm going to walk you through how to use the LSP Scales and Birth Announcement digital background. This is a multi-layer PSD file, which means there are lots of layers here for you to adapt and play with. So this means you will need Photoshop on your computer to open and edit this. Mac and PC are fine, desktop and laptop are fine. I'm using Photoshop CC, but you should be fine with CS5 or CS6 too. If you're using Elements, you may find a few of the bonus layers included, which I'm going to show you in a little while, don't show up. For example, curves layers may not work so well in Elements, but that doesn't matter too much and you should be able to use all the main elements here just fine. So let's get started with the tutorial. When you first open this PSD file in Photoshop, you will see there are a lot of layers here. This should be pretty much how it looks when you open it. You will notice you have the scales, digital background as your bottom layer here, and then above this you have weight, time, date and length. You can turn these off and on by using the little eye. I wouldn't recommend turning the weight off because that, as you can see here, is the spindle, which I will show you in a minute how you can change to show baby's weight. You can turn the time on and off simply by clicking this little eye icon here, and the same with the date. And the same with the length at the bottom here. See, I'm just turning them on and off. So let's get started with the weight. Click here on the weight group. It says weight open group. To open the group, you'll see this folder here. You simply click this little arrow like that and you will see these two layers appear. You have center, which is this piece here. Don't move that one. It says here don't move. Click here on the scale and either hold down Control if you're on a PC or Command if you're on a Mac and T, and that will open up this transform window. Alternatively, you can come up here to Edit and click Free Transform. And all you need to do is just come slightly on the outside and you will notice your arrow cursor changes to this little kind of rotate cursor. You don't want to pull this out, you want to be outside the box here. And simply move this around until you're at the exact right weight. So let's say, for example, baby was £7.1 and hit enter. You can zoom in to get this super accurate if you want to. So let's close that weight group now and let's do the time. You have here the small hand and the big hand. So let's do the small hand. Let's say baby was born at 2:15 in the afternoon. So again, Control or Command T or Edit Free Transform. Come round and move the hand, so let's say 2 o'clock, or 2:15 I think I said. So hit enter and click on the big hand here, and again Control or Command T and make sure that your cursor goes to this little rotate here, and let's move that down to the 2:15 and hit enter. So now we've got the weight and the time changed, so I'm going to go ahead and close that group. Now for the date. You will notice you have the year here in silver, you have the month, and you have the date. So the year, let's change this, at the moment it's 2020, we can go 2021 or whatever, and hit enter. Oh, no, don't hit enter, sorry, click off this, because this is a text layer, so if you hit enter it will automatically go down. You're going to want to click on the double click here where it says T. If you click on just this area of the layer, you will have this window pop up, so click cancel if you accidentally do that. And make sure you click on the T. Now we're on the heart, the first number here. Let's say baby was born on the 23rd of September, so I'll change that into a 2. And then here, the heart, second number, double click the T and change the number there. You can go ahead and change the fonts too if you want to, or anything like that, or the colours or anything if you want. I've left these completely editable. And now we have the month here. Let's change this to November. And hit enter. Don't hit enter. I'm so used to saying hit enter, just click off it again. If you hit enter accidentally, you will notice your cursor moves down the page like this. It doesn't really matter, but make sure you just click the T again. And let's go ahead and close the date. Now for the length. Your clients may tell you the length in inches, although I really don't think they will. And if so, you can just change this here to inches. But come down here and highlight where it says 49. Say for example baby was 48 centimetres. Let's try that, shall we? just going to delete the 9 and pop it in there. And hit enter. You have to excuse me, I keep saying hit enter. Click off it like that. Okay. So now we can hide these if we want to and just add them in. For example, if you only want the weight and time, you can do that. If you only want the date and weight, you could do that. If you want all 3, it just depends. You can just decide to show and hide as you wish. For example, just the weight and the length there. But I'm going to keep all of them on. So now we get to the part where we're actually adding baby in. What you're going to want to do is open up your baby image separately. I've got this image here, taken by Anna Brandt. As you can see, this is unedited, straight out of the camera, cropped in a little bit, so baby still has skin editing and things like that need to happen. I'd recommend running a base edit, so for example, if baby is underexposed or there's anything big you need to fix, I'd recommend doing that first, but you don't need to get stuck into a full skin edit, so I'd say get baby looking like this if you can. It's important to shoot baby on preferably a soft white blanket or a soft cream blanket, because this will make adding baby in to the blanket here so much easier for you to mask and add baby. If, for example, you've shot baby on a red blanket or a fluffy blanket, it's going to be a lot harder and a lot more work for you to get baby looking realistic into this scene. So do try and plan ahead and shoot baby on a light coloured blanket. This baby here is in tushy up pose, bum up pose, which is pretty much the perfect pose for the scale shot here. You could also do a side laying pose, a huck fin pose too, but for this tutorial I'm going to show you with the bum up pose because it's super cute and it works really nicely for clients for this image. So I'm going to hold down Control or Command A to select all. If, for example, baby is quite small in the scene and you've got a lot, you're going to want to crop in quite close to begin with. And then I'm going to do Edit, Copy. So I've copied this picture here of the baby. Back onto the scales, I'm going to come up here to the baby group. It says here open the group, click the little arrow just as we did with the weight and the time. And you'll see there's orange adjustment layers here, lighten the baby, darken the baby. Don't worry about those for now. Come down here to this blank layer here, which is a smart object. That's what this little icon here means, smart object. Click here. Don't click off anywhere else. Don't click the layer mask. Click this invisible layer here with the icon and double click. That will open up a new image here called Layer 2 PSB or Layer whatever PSB. And you'll notice we have a blank layer here saying paste your baby here. And underneath we also have a guide. So we can turn that on. And you will see here it says make sure baby fills this whole area. The light needs to be coming from the left, so flip baby if needed. If, for example, your baby's head is this side, you're going to want to flip baby horizontal, which is Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal, to make sure baby is facing the same way as the baby illustration. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that layer off. Now I've already copied this one, and I'm going to click back on here, and hold down Control or Command and hit V, or Edit, Paste, and the baby will appear. You can also, with your baby layer open, take a hold of this thumbnail in your layers palette, bring it up to the PSB baby layer and drop it in. Either of those ways works. So now we need to resize. So I'm going to do Control or Command again and T for transform, or Edit, free transform. And I'm just going to resize baby in here so she fills this area pretty much. Okay, and hit save. When you save this layer, it's going to automatically save it back to the scales layer. This is a working smart object. So File, Save, and now we can come back onto the scales birth announcement and you will see here is the baby. Here. Now of course baby hasn't been masked, so baby is literally just a cutout here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can work on baby. This blanket that baby's on is a pretty good match already for the blanket, so that should make editing a lot easier. You can change the opacity temporarily of the baby layer, bring it down a little bit. And this way, just come on the move tool here, will allow you to position baby exactly how you want them to be. Again, Control or Command T will allow you to rotate and resize the baby as needed. So I'm just going to zoom out just a little bit, and I'm going to roughly position baby here, I think, and hit enter. Let's slide that opacity back up. Now comes for the part of actually cutting the baby out so that they look realistic. I'd recommend shooting at f5 or higher. You don't want too much of a shallow depth of field here, otherwise baby's back is going to be very blurry, and that won't quite go with the scene. So you want to make this as realistic as possible. Now there are many ways to cut the baby out. You can grab a black brush. Down here, let's choose black. And I'm on the layer mask here. This is like a scratch card, so if I paint black, it's going to hide areas of the image. And you can start to paint away the background, although I find this is rather time consuming. So the way I like to select baby is to come back here onto the actual baby layer. And then come up here to the magic wand. If you're using the most recent Creative Cloud, you will have object selection, but if not, you will have to click quick selection or the magic wand tool. I'm going to choose quick selection, and again on Creative Cloud you will have an option to select subject, which is actually pretty good. But for those of you who are not using Creative Cloud, I'm going to do this slightly longer way. So I'm just going to drag the quick selection tool over baby, and this should be a pretty good way of selecting. It's not going to be perfect, but it's a really good start. Now if we zoom in, we can see, let's go back on that. There are so many ways you can mask the baby. This is just simply how I do it. This doesn't mean you necessarily have to do it this way. This is just a good way I find to do it. So zoom in and make sure everything is selected on baby. If not, go back onto your quick selection tool and keep going a little bit more. And when you're on quick selection, you will notice there's two options, select subject and select and mask. If you don't have these options, you can come up to select and hit select and mask. This will bring up a window like this or something similar. You may get a smaller window if you're using an older version. I'm going to come here to the refine selection brush, and I'm just going to use this around the edge, swooping around baby's hair, and this should help pick up some fine details. But again, however you mask is up to you. This is just how I do it. There's, as with everything in Photoshop, there's a million ways you can do these things. Okay. When you've got that roughly done, you will notice there is marching ants around your baby's selection now. That means your baby is selected. I actually want to keep the baby here. I don't want the baby selected. I want everything but the baby selected. So I'm going to come up here to select and inverse. That has now selected away from the baby. So I can click on the layer mask, grab the black brush, let's make it nice and big, and now you can see I can start painting away, and baby remains intact because the selection is off baby. Let's hit Control or Command D to deselect, and you'll notice now we have a pretty good cutout of the baby. I'm going to grab a nice soft brush on a low opacity or a low flow, and because this baby, switch over to white, because this baby was on a very similar white blanket, I can really lightly start stroking around now to soften these edges. What I'm doing is, because I'm using a white brush, I'm actually painting back in. I've deselected, so I'm painting back in around the baby here. So we can add some shadows back in. You see here, there's a little bit I've missed, so I'm going to grab a black brush and paint it away. Selection around the hair doesn't look so good, so I'm going to work on that a little bit better. Just adding some back in, very lightly. I would really recommend you take your time with this, and depending on how experienced you are, you may be able to do this quickly. It may take you a while, but it's all good practice, and it's worth doing it properly. For a finished, really good finished result that your clients can print super big. So I'm just using a black brush here, just to get rid of these extra bits of white. Because I don't really want baby to have a white outline. Baby was shot on white, but the background here is actually more of a bone colour, so I'm just getting rid of some of that halo. Okay, so I think that's a pretty good cutout so far. You can turn baby on or off to see the before and after there. So now it's time to start editing the blanket a little bit to match the baby. If your baby is on like a pink or a cream or a green blanket and you have a little bit of colour cast here, you can either edit that from the baby using your editing techniques, or you can adapt this blanket. If you want to adapt this blanket, so for example here, this baby is on a slightly whiter blanket to my blanket. I'm going to click here on the Lighten and Whiten Blanket Paint. So I'm going to grab a nice, big, soft, white brush. Make sure you're on the layer mask, and I'm just going to use this to ever so slightly whiten this blanket, and that will match the blanket the baby was shot on. See here? Just slightly lifted and lightened. If you wanted to change the colour, you can click here to the blanket colour and turn it on. You see it's invisible, so make sure you turn it on first, and you'll notice this blanket has gone kind of a real pale cream. Double click this little box here for hue and saturation, and you will notice your hue and saturation box comes up. All you need to do is slide the hue bar here and you will notice this blanket changing colour. So for example, if you shot baby on a pale green, you may wish to change the colour. But I don't need to do that for this one, so I'm going to turn it off. But that's a little added extra for those of you who didn't shoot baby on white. So now we come to editing baby. You will notice above the baby layer we have warm baby, cool baby, calm the reds, calm the yellows, darken baby and lighten baby. These are good for a light edit, but I would really recommend doing a full edit on baby by double clicking the smart object again and opening up baby as a separate layer. So let's double click this, and again it's opened up our layer 2 PSB. To edit this baby, I'm going to use the LSP Signature Newborn, and I'm going to play Newborn Skin Perfecto. You of course can use any of your editing techniques that you want to do, but I would recommend editing baby on a separate window rather than in the birth announcement. This means that you are free to edit everything here and it won't affect the original image. So let me just remove these actions. You can see the actions have set up a multi-layer workflow for the Newborn Skin Perfecto. I'm going to grab a small brush, just bring the flow up a little bit, and this will really easily paint away all these little spots and flakes. So I'm just going to run this super quickly over baby's skin. This isn't an editing video, I'm not going to do a full edit, just enough to show you the kind of things you need to be doing. So baby's a little bit blotchy here, a little bit flaky, so let's just... You see I'm using a white brush on the black layer mask just to smooth the skin down. Blotchy skin fix, I'm just going to use a little bit of that too. Softer skin, so I'm just lightly running this over. Detail pop. Let's pop these eyelashes out. And the lips here. You could also pop that little headband and perhaps some detail here. I need to fix that that diaper nappy area there, but we can do that later. A little bit of contrast in. Toner, this will give your baby a nice warm colour to the skin and a touch of milky brightness to the face. I'm also going to play the LSP Go Away Reds Extra just for these feet, because we have some little red toes there and perhaps a little redness here. And when you're done you can hit save. Again, file save, and this will save it back over here to the birth announcement. And there we go, so baby is now edited. You can add a little bit more here by painting on with a white brush, warm baby, cool baby, calm the reds. For example, I may calm the reds just a touch more, just to make baby adapt to this scene a little more. Lighten baby, you can add a little bit more brightness if you want to, but I don't think this baby particularly needs it. Perhaps a little, and I will turn that opacity down just a teeny bit. Okay, so that's the baby added. I'm going to close the group. So we have before and after, and baby there. And then to finish with, we have the creamy baby overlay, which you can turn on or off, which will add a creamy overlay, a contrast overlay, and a black and white group here, which gives you a very intense black and white edit there. So that is how to use the LSP scales, the birth announcement digital background. Your clients will love this one. You can find more videos, products and information at www.lsp-actions.com. I'm Lauren, thanks for watching.